Hi, everyone. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Breann.
And you're listening to the
Just Haunted House Things podcast. And we're back.
We're back.
Oh my God, so much faster than we said we would last time.
We did it.
See, this is action.
This is the action
This
part.
is that action part we're coming at with you guys. Yeah. Okay, so today I would love to talk about haunts in movies.
Okay.
Which is like probably mostly horror movies. I don't think I've ever seen a haunt in a movie that...
Well, what about like those like little, CW movies where they're like, let's go to the fair and then there's like a haunted house in the background or something.
Oh, well, no, that is super cute. But like...
Does that count?
I think that totally counts. I think you can add that. That's like... It's like the generic fair scene where it's like that same haunted house that goes to every single fair, the traveling haunted house. Like the one that's on the carts.
Yeah, the dark ride one.
Yeah, that one used to scare the shit out of me as a child.
Me too.
But like now I look back at it and I'm like, why?
It was so cheesy.
Yeah. I mean, I still go in them.
Yeah, me too, if they're around.
And every once in a while they got a really good jump scare.
Yeah, just one. Because it's in the middle of the dark.
Exactly. But like awesome.
Yeah.
Because I still go to them.
Yeah.
I want to talk about like haunts in movies and the realism of it, or like what could be real from it. Yeah. Essentially, this all stemmed from I just rewatched a haunted horror movie called Haunt. And one sec as I go to my notes to figure out who the directors were, because like at least I want to give them credit for it. Okay. Scott Beck and Brian Woods. This movie is on Prime, and I'm sure many other places. Essentially, it's a group of friends who on Halloween night are partying, and they get this elusive flyer to go to a really cool secret haunted house. Okay. And it's supposed to be like really immersive and everything like that. So they show up to this haunted house, they sign the waiver where it's really particular about like, don't touch anyone else. Right. And the actors won't touch you. Right. And they have to put their phones in a lockbox outside of the haunted house, blah, blah, blah. So they start going through it, and there's a couple like cheesy things. But then they get to this one room, and it's behind a glass wall where they like this actor drags in a body bag with a person in it. So they open the body bag. It turns out, and only because I've got an extremely keen eye when it comes to movies, it was like one of the actors, or one of the guests from the previous group that went in before them. Oh. And they kill her. Oh. Like in the haunt. Oh. So it's like but they kind of did it where they closed the curtains right before they shot her in the head or something like that. Right. And so the guests who are currently going through it are like, oh, so that must be that immersive thing where it's like that girl was a guest. So they're pulling her in because they had also said, you must do whatever the actors tell you to do. Right. So really quickly on into like the next room, what happens is they go into this next room, and one of the members of the group kind of like pushes one of the actors. Right. So right then and there, I realized, I was like, oh wait, he just broke that rule where he isn't supposed to touch anyone. You kind of saw like a shift in like the actor who got pushed. Right. And it made me think, I was like, because what happens in this movie, and spoiler alert, is like everyone dies. Right. Because the haunt actors have set it up to be like a little game show for them where no one can actually get out of the house. Right. So it's really fun. But a part of me was like, what if the concept really was like, they could have got through this entire house had they not touched that one actor.
If they had just done...
Follow the rules.
Follow the rules.
Yeah. And I'm like... A part of me is like, man, that's really twisted, because you should be able to go to a haunted house and enjoy it and come out alive. But as a previous haunter, there's something in me that is like...
That's fucking smart.
Yeah, that's like, yeah, you know what? You signed a contract and you were not supposed to touch anyone. And now that you have, you must die. So, it like for me, it was kind of like, one, how real do we think that could be? And two, have we ever had those thoughts?
I mean, the frustration hits for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think I could ever...
Kill anyone?
No.
I mean, I probably could, but I also think I'm smart enough to know that I couldn't get away with it.
Yeah, that's...
At least not nowadays.
Yeah.
Maybe back in the 1800s, totally.
Well.
A little arsenic. Just Spread it out. Don't
Sure.
kill people back to back.
Breann, you're about to get put on a list.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm already on one. You know how much I talk about Skynet and not trusting the government? Yeah, I'm already on a list.
Yeah, okay, fair.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was kind of like that the idea and that concept of like, could that be a real thing? But also like, that was one of the ones where watching a haunt in a horror movie, I was like, well, that's kind of
It's pretty realistic.
like, kind of
aside
plausible.
from the murder part.
Yeah, but like, so it was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I know that there was another horror movie that's set in a haunt. Oh, fuck. What is it called now? I can see it. Hell House? Hell House?
Oh yeah. Well, that was in a haunted house. Yeah.
Like set in, it was a haunters or something. Okay, hang on. Hold it.
Because Hell House was, yes. No, you're absolutely right. It was like a haunted house where they had a tragedy happen where it was like, there was a fire, but then there was also like a murder in the basement.
Yeah,
like,
something like that.
yeah,
I think, that's the one I'm thinking of.
There was like 5 of those because they kept, which I like them all. I watched them all. And it was like, they did that first one where the first movie was kind of based on the fact that they were going to investigate that house because it was a haunted house.
Yeah.
And the fire happened and like the sadness of people passing. And then like you would go into the house and you'd get possessed.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But there was one that was about like actual haunters hunting down these people at a haunted house. And I can't remember what it was. But I remember my friend Everton distinctly told me that I needed to watch it. Now I'm like upset that I can't remember.
Now we got to go through Everton's socials and
Hold up. Let me see if I can find it in our messages. Everton.
Fuck yeah.
I miss him.
So much. Everton, if you're out there,
We miss you.
we miss you. I know you're out there, but if you're listening,
Yeah.
I know you're out there because when you do post very sporadically, I see you and I miss you.
Yes. Do, 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 do.
P.S. to anyone out there, that's how I socialize majority of the time, unless you are the very lucky Courtney or my husband who
it was Hell House LLC.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's the one.
It's a good one. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you haven't seen, like, there's like...
I didn't finish it.
Courtney.
I was tired.
That's fair.
I fell asleep.
That's fair.
It happens.
It does.
I fell asleep to a lot of movies.
Well, that happens with old age.
Yes.
For both of us.
And unless I'm in a theater.
Yeah. Unless it's like I'm sitting up straight at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or in a theater.
If I'm laying in bed or laying down on the couch, I'm done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I'll fall asleep in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I used to look at my mom and be like, how could you do that? I get it now, Mom. Mom, I get it. I understand. And I'm so sorry for ever like being like, wake up if you're not going to watch the movie. No, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another really good series would be Houses That October Built.
Oh, yes. I think that's the one I was thinking of.
That one is so good.
Yeah.
That one's
I
like
that
found
one.
footage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's about haunters who are just like traveling around the country going to different haunts.
Yeah.
And there's 2 of the movies. And the first one's just like people who aren't super known. And it's just a bunch of people who are friends from like high school or whatever. They get a big old Winnebago.
Yep.
And they're looking for like the top haunted houses. And they're looking for the most elusive haunted house, which ends up being the Blue Skull or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so they eventually, towards the end, because they travel around to different cities and they keep getting hints from different places to be like, go here. This is where you're going to find the Blue Skull.
Right.
Finally, they get there and they go through this haunted house. But like, it was so terrifying how it ended. It was kind of like a Blair Witch style.
Cool.
How they ended up having these people like buried in coffins.
Oh. And
they were like you were there with like the haunters who were there putting the dirt on top of the people in the coffin, except it's being filmed and it's being broadcast on the internet.
Oh, wow.
So there are people there who are thinking like, oh, this is hilarious. This is like just an act. And then there's people who are like, holy shit, they're burying this chick alive. And they called the cops. And that's kind of how it ends.
Cool.
So fast forward to, I think, a year or 2 after that, they come up with a second one where it picks that up on how that was like, oh, they call her Coffin Girl and everyone wants Coffin Girl because she was so scared. And so they go through, like, they convince this girl who had this traumatic experience to go to haunted houses again with them. And for whatever reason, and I think it's the money, that she says yes. Because honestly, for a certain amount of money, I'd say yes.
Yep.
But it's so cool because they end up getting tricked, kind of, but it's all like a bit of a plan. I don't want to give too much away. And they end up getting back with this fucking blue skull.
Oh,
and then there's a crazy twist ending, which I was like, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that one a lot. But that's probably one of the ones that feels most real.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Most on point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have the same masks that like you'll see at any of the haunts that we go to around town.
Yeah. And outside of here.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's very realistic. Yeah. It's interesting because I'm surprised that there aren't more movies that are based around haunt culture.
Yeah.
Like haunted house culture.
Yeah.
Just because like I've always had the nightmare of like what happens if something wild goes down in a haunt. Like how long would it take for us to notice?
Exactly.
Because people might just be like, oh, that's so realistic.
Exactly.
But then, yeah.
Well,
but, I mean, most people will tell you when they're hurt, but.
Well, yeah, you would hope. I mean, like we've had situations in like our haunt in the past where it's like someone accidentally ran into something and didn't realize that their foot was bleeding 3 rooms later and like blood through the house. And it's like no one, like it's hard to tell like not for us, it's hard to tell the difference between fake and real blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're scared, you don't really process it.
No,
It's
exactly.
fake or real blood. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I also just like really love the found footage style of a lot of these movies just because like it makes it so much more realistic.
Yeah.
Because most haunts have some sort of closed circuit TV.
Yeah.
Closed circus.
Well, closed circus as well.
Yeah.
You got to be in crowd.
Yeah. You got to be in the know, man. So yeah, it's just interesting that like it makes it more plausible of like how would it go down?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And it's interesting. I mean, does this one count? Because it was technically shot at one of our haunted houses.
Everything
Totally
counts.
Killer.
Yeah, it totally counts.
That counts, right?
Yeah.
It was shot at one of ours.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go watch that. I actually keep
It's actually so good.
okay. Yeah, I keep like scrolling by because I'm like, that does look good, but is that like?
Yeah, I won't spoil it.
No,
but I
okay.
really enjoyed that one. And then also knowing that it was shot at ours is really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. And you'll see a few people that you recognize.
Of course, Vancouver scene.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just like some of these movies. It's like I love. I think it's mostly the found footage ones that can really portray a haunt correctly.
Yeah.
Like
and
the lifestyle of it, I guess.
I'm also really curious, like, if the people who are making it just do research really well, or if there's somebody like on their team who is like a consultant.
Yeah.
For like how these things work.
Because I think with houses at October, I think they actually like because
real haunters.
Yeah, no, I think they went to like actual real haunts. Because of the way it's like they were going from city to city, but it really looked like guerrilla style shooting. Like it was like found footage, but like really like it was just them doing the camera work.
Right.
And in the credits, the people who were acting were credited as the director and creator.
Oh, okay.
So I really think they kept it small, but I think they just like traveled around and just like added the couple things that they needed to, but it looked a lot like real haunts. They were talking to real people, and you could tell that it was real because the way that people would answer questions, you're like, oh yeah, that's my people right there. That's not an actor being like, well, I love to scare people.
Right.
Yeah, it's like they're more going into it like, oh, it's all about being together and having a good time, and you get a little joy out of it.
Right.
And so it's like that was really cool. I just don't know how many, like Hollywood obviously likes to dramatize stuff, so I'm not sure how many times you go to a horror movie that they have like legitimate like haunting practices.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm curious if maybe they just like did a lot of research and went to YouTube and
That's true, yeah.
And actually got people who could come across as that authentic.
Yeah.
It's
not
possible.
that hard. Yeah.
It's not that hard to come across as that authentic.
No, it's nope. You could just find a weird person and they could just like fit in perfectly.
Yep.
Yeah. And weird in a good way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. I'll have to rewatch that one.
Yes.
Trying to think of if there's any other like movies that I've seen that were based in a haunt. I can't think of any off the top of my brain, but I'm also fucking tired.
Fucking tired.
Yeah.
Well, that's because it's getting close to the end of the year.
It is, and I don't like it.
It's Christmas time, everyone. Gross.
Gross. So, like, when you're watching those movies, does it add an element of, like, fear because you know how they run? Like, how the haunts run? Or is it just interesting because you have been a haunter?
I don't know if it's kind of fear. There's definitely, like, an elation and excitement because I'm like, oh, I know something about this. It's like when you're watching a movie and you're like, I know that street because that's in the same, they're filming in the town that I grew up in or something like that. And so it's kind of like, oh, I know how to haunt and I know what those masks are like and scary stuff. And then it's more so, I think I get excited about it because I'm like, I want to do it.
Right.
Yeah. So it's more of when I see it, I want to go do it.
Yeah. Makes you want to go back to scaring the crap out of people.
Oh, hell yeah, because it's so much fun.
Hey, when you move, do you think you'll try and get into a haunt over there?
I will always try and get in a haunt.
Okay.
It will probably just depend on what job, if any, I have at the time.
Yes. Okay. And just that popped into my brain just now.
Yeah, no.
Not to put you on the spot.
Oh, no, I like being on the spot. I thrive under pressure. No, but I was also thinking though, and like it literally popped in my head in the last podcast we just did. How cool would it be if like somehow we could do like traveling stuff, like we go to like different provinces and stuff like that. I'll just keep trying to go East Coast. I'll just like every year I'll just go one province over. Just Saskatchewan and Manitoba. That one's gonna be.
I'm not even trying to get across Canada. I'm trying to get to like some of the haunts in the States.
Hell yeah.
Like, I want to see some of those.
Yeah.
Yes. Because we've seen Universal.
Oh yeah.
At least on the West Coast. It would be fun to see East Coast.
Yeah. But that's the thing is like it feels like there's so many more like based on like movies, it feels like there's so many more haunts in the States. Yeah. And like obviously, and Canada's massive. So it's to say like we probably have a ton of haunts, but
we do, but it's not nowhere near towards what they have in the US. It's interesting because like I think it was somewhere in Texas. I looked at a map, I don't know, a scare factor or something like that. There's a map that you can look at every season and it shows you how many haunts are in that like area. Yeah. I remember looking one year at some place in Texas and there was like 20 within this one area. I was like, that's insane. I've got like 4.
No, but that's true. And that's the thing is like everything is so close to each other down there too, that it wouldn't be crazy to go from like one state to another really quickly for a weekend just to like check out a haunt.
Well, in certain areas, not like, cause I mean,
Texas is massive,
huge.
Yeah.
But like, even just like, if you look at Illinois, like there's so many that are within like close proximity to each other. And I feel like here it feels like it's close proximity, but it's like each one is easily like an hour away from each other. Yeah. And so like that's nuts in and of itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
And there are still more popping up because it's getting more and more popular in our neighborhood. But it's wild to think about how crazy big
it is down there.
It is in the States versus Canada.
Yeah.
Even though we're on the same fucking continent, we celebrate the same.
Yeah.
And it's just for some reason it's like much larger down there.
I wonder like what's the population of and like for landmass and like let's get really into this. What is the population density of the US versus Canada / like against the massive landmass?
Okay.
Because that's the thing is like I when people try to talk about Canada, they don't necessarily think about how fucking large it is. And forever, I'm so sorry to all foreigners, but when you guys come and you're like, I'm going to land in BC. Yeah, I think I'm going to go to Nova Scotia for the weekend. You're like, you can't
do that.
I would love to go to the UK and go from like town to town within 20 minutes of each other. That's just so not a thing you do here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know how to. What is the population to land ratio in the United States? Population per square miles as of 2020.
Close enough.
Was 93.8. I don't know what that means. Land area in square miles. The population of the United States is
Oh, that's gross. That's a big number.
346
billion or million?
I think that's million. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the population of Canada, which I'm pretty sure is not anywhere close to that.
Oh, fuck no.
Yeah, it's not.
It's fucking 40 million. We didn't even
40.1 million.
We didn't even break the 100.
Yeah. So
that's a lot of people in the States.
So then that makes sense then as to why there's so many more
people who have the interest.
Yeah.
Start it, but then it's easier to see that interest around you because it's more in an enclosed space.
Yeah. That's interesting.
That is interesting.
We're so spread out.
Yeah.
No wonder we're.
But also, I think that a part of it has to do with like the history of the States.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because like they've got so much that has like their infrastructure that is still has a lot of history of like a lot of good things and bad things happening, that they keep the buildings. And they can sometimes either turn them into haunts or that's kind of like I find feeds it.
I mean, to an extent.
Well, if you look at Salem, right? Salem, Massachusetts, to be specific, because I know there's like way more than one Salem in the States. Because of the history of the Salem witch trials, that has like fed that town.
Yeah.
Right? But that's because of the history that was there and all the landmarks that they still have.
Right.
So I think that's interesting because I just find you can create your own story, but there's something really scary about pulling something from reality.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's how haunted attractions started in the United States, because they started with hell houses, which was Christian-based propaganda.
Yeah.
To basically keep you away from sinning.
And to stay saintly.
Yes. And so they would build these hell houses that basically scared you into not sinning. And
which is so backwards when you think about it, because it's like, hi, we are good Christian people wanting to promote unity and happiness and no sins, but you must now play the sinner. You must now pretend to commit this sin.
But that's like, I guess, how they kind of started.
Yeah.
And then, there was also other ways in which they became popular. But it was through, something similar to that, but it was like Boy Scouts type thing. And then it became, but it was still around like morality and like things like that, of that nature. And then
interesting,
it eventually turned into the Halloween craziness of just like what lurks in the dark and scary monsters and things like that. And then it kind of morphed. It's now
and
morphed.
then it's like taking from what you see and creating something new. And then of course with horror movies you're like, well, if you could experience this but in real life kind of thing in a safe zone. It's just like,
it's just interesting. And then like in Canada, we're heavily influenced by the States.
Absolutely.
That's just a fact.
That's a fact. Yeah.
And so it's just slowly crept up here. And we've had haunted attractions for a long time. Like I remember going through them as a kid, but I only remember them really becoming a big thing when I was like a teenager.
Yeah.
Because like the most you would get was at like a fairground. Was like it was either a tiny little walkthrough or it was like the little dark ride that we talked about. Was it last episode?
Well, I think so.
And so like, so it wasn't until like I was in my teens that I went through a full-fledged pro haunted house, and like the rest were like maybe home haunts, yard haunts, like little front yard displays and whatnot that were like the dude who owns the house is like dressed up as like Ghostface or something, right? So it was like never a pro level haunt until I was like easily 16.
But also like we were, I mean, not absolutely yes, because we didn't have that as much growing up, but also we were both from like smaller.
Yeah, but where I saw the pro haunt was in Calgary specifically. Yeah. So it wasn't like the small town that we drove an hour to get in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I grew up with, we called it Chateauboux.
Yeah, okay.
And that's the only thing really that I was exposed to when it came to Halloween as like a kid, when it came to haunted houses. Except for one time, I definitely blacked out most of the experience of walking through this haunted house, but my dad was carrying me and I think I was 5. And I just remember crying in his shoulder and looking up as we're turning in a hallway, and I just saw like a Frankenstein face, and I just like, I hated it all.
And you lost it?
I lost my shit. But like I was 5.
Yeah,
but then
rightfully so, to lose your shit at 5.
Because of that, then it's like we'd have these like really cute community like haunted houses, the Chateau Boo, that we would do every Halloween.
Yeah.
And it was like maybe a 3-minute walk through that was like mostly paper or plastic bags and stuff like that. But I was so traumatized by that Frankenstein that I was like, I'm not going in this one.
Yeah. It's essentially the fear of unknown.
Exactly.
You don't know what's in there. So it's going to scare the crap out of you. And like based on your experience, you're like, yeah, that's absolutely going to scare the crap out of me.
And then especially topping on top is like, without realizing at the time, like I had extreme anxiety. So I'm like literally building things up in my head.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where it's like the haunt that we met at, I fucking, before I even worked there, I remember like I was gonna go in and I just like walked up to the curtain and I cried. And I was like, it's not happening. I'm not going through there. I'm 18 years old, but I'm not doing it. And then my friends came running out and they were just laughing, but like so terrified. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm so glad I didn't go in there.
Yeah.
Fast forward like a year later and I'm working in it and I'm like, I mean, like, yeah, it's scary, but like, it's so nice in here. Why did my brain take me to the end of the world and the depths of like, you are actually going to lose your soul in this house.
You're going to die.
Yeah. So like, kudos to the people running it at that time, but like,
you're welcome.
that is true. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't running it, but I was acting.
But you were a part of it. I remember exactly who came out as Luther too. I remember exactly who it was.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. And it was someone.
I wonder if I was working that day.
I don't know because I didn't go in the house, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, you would know.
I just know that Luther came out because he chased them out of the house. Yeah,
back before we,
had scare zones and
had scare zones.
The Wild West of the days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back in the outlaw days.
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I remember similar to you, like my dad walking me through a haunted house. It was one of those like fair ones.
Yeah.
And he was carrying me and I cried in his shoulder. I didn't even look at anything. I just know it was dark and I've always had a fear of the dark.
Yeah.
I still kind of do. I sleep with the nightlight. I'm not ashamed
No
of it.
shame.
It's dark and it's spooky.
Yeah. Things go bump in the night.
They do. Okay.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
And so I like obviously slept with the light on after I went to the haunted house with my dad. And then I remember trying out going on like the dark rides before, and I'd tap out even before getting onto the ride, be like, nope.
That's a hell no.
And then I like the haunted house that I went to when I was like 16, I later found out was the same contractors who worked at the haunt before, like as I was like getting into the haunt world, I found out that it was them.
That's cool.
Which is very interesting. It's a full circle moment.
Yeah.
But I remember going through that and I was the shitty teenager because I'd be like, don't fucking come near me. But I like as much fun, like as scary as it was, there was a bit of me that was like, okay, that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But it was still like terrifying.
Yeah.
And I like now having like a peek behind the curtain, some of the things that I remember of being in that haunted house, I'm like, oh, there's just a dude behind there.
Right?
There's just a fucking random
It's just
person.
a random
and they were
guy.
just making something move and it doesn't fucking matter.
Or it's a drop window. And
Yeah.
you're like, but like in the moment, that drop window, that Frankenstein
Terrifying.
is the worst thing in the world.
Terrifying.
But like now you're like, oh, look at the concept of this drop window.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. Like I do wish more people like understood like the mechanics of it all, so that maybe like, I mean, I guess it kind of ruins the illusion for some people, but then maybe more people would want to go through just for like the interest.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, the production.
Yeah.
But I know not everybody is as nerdy as you and me.
I know, but it's so like going through it is so pretty. Like we could even go and talk about the freaking Eli Roth's old.
Oh my God. That was so fun.
Fucking the decor.
I feel like we've talked about that one before.
Yeah. Like
but
way long ago.
A long time
Yeah.
ago. But that one was so pretty.
That was like, and like, yeah, they had a lot of money, but it was, you can have a lot of money and still make something look like shit.
Looks like crap.
Yeah. But it was the concept. It was the story. It was everything that they did that you were like, holy fuck. And they really made you feel like you were in a tiny space and then a larger space. And it's just like what they did with what they had was phenomenal.
Yeah. They were really good at controlling where you looked too, which is
Yeah.
sweet. And that's an art in and of itself.
Yeah. And that's the Goretorium that used to be in Vegas.
Yeah.
That Eli Roth.
Long gone now.
Many years ago.
Yeah.
Which is sad because it's a really cool concept to have an all year haunted house that you could like probably if you wanted to. I'm not sure if they did, but change like the theme up every so often.
Oh, that would take so much money, but yeah.
I know, but also they had like the bar up top, which was fun. It was on the strip. It was just like a really good time. And it sucks that it didn't have the interest.
Yeah. I have some theories, but I won't get into it.
At least not on camera or on podcast.
But it's those types of things now, like when we go to them now, like, yes, they can still be scary, but we still see the artistry of it all. And I think it's still quite lovely that we can still get scared after all these years.
And we do. And I wonder if like a part of it is like now that when we go through them, we are looking at like, we're not looking at the same thing as like a regular guest going through is we're looking at like the tinier details. Not to judge anything, but just to like take a look at the things that most people don't look at. And within that distraction, I think that's cool because then people can still like get us because we're distracted, but by something else that we're excited about in the haunt.
Most people aren't paying attention to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're those weird 1%ers, but
it's like when I go to watch a scary movie. I don't watch it necessarily for like the scary facts, and I love to rewatch movies over and over and over again, especially horror ones, because little things that they put in there, the little Easter eggs, the little details,
the foreshadowing,
exactly, is just so exciting to like look for. So I always look for that in haunts as well, and it's my favorite thing where you can see something in one room and then in like the 20th room or whatever, it kind of comes back again, or it all ties together.
A little callback to something you saw earlier.
For me, it's always the story is my favorite part. Yeah.
It's interesting because I keep saying it's interesting, but
it is.
It is. I've always been intrigued by the fact that some haunts don't have a storyline.
Yeah.
And like, why?
Like,
why? Because so much of like the content that we see, including on TikTok, Instagram, stuff like that, there's usually some form of narrative. Some form of narrative to whatever reel or whatever you call a TikTok. I'm fucking old. Okay. But it's so then to just like throw a bunch of a theme, I've talked about this before. But then to just throw a bunch of themes all into one haunted house, it fucking kills me, man. It's just like, but I understand to a degree about why they do it, because like big ideas, small space. Yeah,
like you have so many ideas that you want to get them all out, and you think it's possible. But that's the hard thing, and I think a lot of like creators will agree that it's like the hardest part is editing your own stuff.
Yes.
And like you got to edit.
Yes, you have to edit.
And it's because it's for the people who are not living in your brain.
Yes.
Like you're creating this concept for other people to enjoy, but you really have to make it easy for them to follow the storyline
and to digest
it. And plus it's like the intricacies are cool and I love to see them, but for most guests and most people who are going through these, they're missing all that.
Right.
Because they like it's the simple thing. The person jumps out, scares them. They're freaking out. They have no idea that they're supposed to like see the beating dead heart under the stairs.
Right.
Yes, I stole that from a book. But it's so it's just it's interesting, the whole like less is more concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so wild. I just I'll never quite understand it, because all of the best haunted houses that we've been to so far have had some type of underlying narrative, and they stick to that narrative.
Yes. And then it's just, but there's every once in a while, there's been one that's popped up where it's like,
it's just a mishmash.
They've got a concept of one idea that you're like, okay, but then that's nowhere around. And then all of a sudden you've got all these other like let's say, because it's my favorite thing to go back to, Jacob, let's say it's supposed to be a deep sea adventure haunted house.
I was like, which Jacob are we talking about?
This Jacob. You know exactly.
Yeah, I do.
And so it's like, but then it's like, okay, you're like, let's say we're stuck in a compound underwater and that's the horror and like things are about to break in or whatever. But then all of a sudden there's like a monkey that's wearing a banana suit comes in and you're like, okay.
Where'd you come from?
But then is never mentioned again.
Yeah. Why were you here?
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like,
or even worse, it's a
David
clown.
Bowie is alive again in the corner. And you're like, well, that's fucking cool. And I want to see that. But then you're like, but what does that have to do with the story and the sharks and the water?
Yeah. Or like I just said, it's a clown.
Yeah. Or a clown. No clowns.
I know you hate clowns, but it's but that's like kind of, it just goes completely left field, and you're like, but that didn't stick to the storyline or the narrative, and I'm like, why are you
like, it's there because clowns are scary.
I mean, listen, I get it. Clowns are fucking scary, and they'll always be scary.
But there is a time and a place.
Yeah. So it's just there's no hate to anybody who does their haunts those ways, but I am questioning your thoughts.
Yeah. And if you could come and tell us like why that is.
Tell us the why.
Because that's also like, and this is just my opinion. It's for me the same of like music that's like really industrial sound effect music. Mm-hmm. There's a place for people out there that love that. It's just not a concept I understand.
Right.
So it's like the same thing. It's like, yeah, you got like, I love that you have so many thoughts in your head and you're throwing this in because this is scary, but like, why?
Yeah. And like going back to what we were talking about previously, like at the start of this little episode, is that like you wouldn't see a horror movie that strays from that. Their guiding light, their narrative. So like, what is the purpose of going away from your narrative or not having a narrative when things that are structured in this way are like so impactful?
Exactly. Because then you're really like cornering yourself to a really specific niche market, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, the idea is to like share and expand these communities, or at least that's what our idea is. So it's just interesting because it's like, I feel like almost like it stops people from like even wanting to go and understand it because it's so far-fetched. I don't know. I'll do anything twice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But that's something that you just mentioned, like made me think, like haunted houses, horror movies. Haunted houses are kind of like a live action horror movie.
Yeah.
And you're kind of bringing that into a safe space of like a real world. So yeah, you would like for a movie, you want to make it a simple storyline.
Yeah.
There can be twists and turns, but you want the people to follow the path.
I just feel like that should also apply to haunted houses.
Absolutely.
And other immersive type things.
Yes. Make it so people can understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the biggest piece.
Because as soon as people get confused in a haunted, like as soon as I get confused in a haunted house,
it's over.
I'm not scared. I'm not looking at anything. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And that is actually a great segue into a thought that I have had a lot. And it's just like, how do the guests fit into your story?
That is a great fucking question.
Yeah, how do I fit into your story?
Yeah.
Because like, why the fuck am I there?
Yeah.
Right? I'm trying to think of where, I guess like, the Goratorium kind of did that in a sense of like, you were checking in as a guest, right?
Yeah.
And then, because essentially the premise was you were going into this hotel and you were walking through it and there were things that go bump in the night, essentially. That's the very dumbed down version of it. But to it, at its core, that's what it was.
Yeah.
But we were essentially guests being checked into this place.
Yeah.
And then we were being shown
all like the history of the hotel and the casino that were involved.
Yes.
And you're going through the story and it's kind of like
very H.H.O. Holmes.
Yes. Which also, by the way, I think would be an amazing, like I would love, I think I'm like 90% sure that they tore down the actual hotel that H.H. Holmes built.
I would hope so.
I would hope so. It's pretty terrifying. But if they didn't, how cool would that be to turn like that actual building into a haunted house?
It'd be terrifying.
Oh, absolutely. But like, that's kind of what I want.
Yeah.
Like I want history to become reality in a scary way. And like be like, so this is what actually happened. You can experience this in a safe manner, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's why are we there?
Yeah.
Keep that in your mind as you're making these haunted houses. So like when you mishmash things.
Yeah. Because you don't have to have a story where it's like the people are the guests. It can just be like people are walking through and experiencing this world that you've created. But again, if there's no cohesion, if it doesn't make sense, if there's not some basic story to the house, then you lost your target audience before they walk in the house.
Yeah. Although I suppose there's some places that will just all they want to do is scare the pants off of you.
That's true.
And like in that sense, as long as you have like a general theme that they can be like, okay, these are the types of monsters that are going to come and get me.
Like, this is a zombie house. They're just going to try and scare the shit out of you because they're zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this a backwoods house? Is this an alien house? Is this a
vampires?
Vampires, what have you?
Yeah.
Fuck, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Haunted houses are cool.
They are cool. Okay, Breann.
Yes.
Where can people find us?
Well, you can find us in many places. We have our Facebook account. We have our Instagram account.
Sure do.
You can go and drop us some love at our buyuscoffee.com.
Yeah. Buymeacoffee.com.
Buymeacoffee/JHHT. Just haunted house things.
Yeah, or you could just search Buy Me a Coffee, just haunted house things, and it'll come up.
Yeah. We got some new merch that is just dropped.
Yes.
You got to check that out. We're going to be releasing some other stuff when we
when we have the time.
Yeah, figure out what we want and if it's pretty enough.
Yep.
Yeah. What else?
On the Buy Me a Coffee page, we'll probably do some extra postings.
Yes.
And maybe a few meanderings over there. The written meanderings,
yes,
not audio yet so far.
Free fall writing.
Yeah. And maybe photos, maybe something else, maybe, I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know.
The world is our oyster.
It's true.
And you are welcome to join with us.
Yes. So follow along on our silly little journey of talking about haunted house stuff.
And going from one subject to another
with ease.
With ease and no cohesion to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Glad to have you guys.
We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.